Welcome to Deep Tech Musings. This is Pronojit Saha. In this episode, we continue our discussion with Vishesh, who is the co-founder of SkyServe.ai, which is on a mission to democratize Earth observation by providing easily accessible real-time insights from satellites at a cost that's more affordable. Vishesh walks us through his startup story, the major use cases and insights that it delivers on, its technology behind those insights, the business model, and future ambitions. Vishesh is someone who goes after the hard problems and feels we are at a time where space future will be scripted. So let's dive into the discussion to understand how he aims to do same. Hi Vishesh, welcome to the show.
Hi Pronojit.
So let's start with learning more about your background, right from the education days to the professional experiences you have had till SkyServe.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I have a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering from IIT Kanpur. I graduated in 2011. I had a brief stint in IBM, and then I joined Team Indus. It was an aerospace startup in India. We were building a lunar landing system and a rover system. And I was there representing the guidance, navigation, control team. So I was there for more than 6 years and starting from scratch, initially without much guidance, was involved in developing algorithms, developing and proposing systems. Around me, we had a team of 9 people at a point and involved in various parts of the solution. So guidance, navigation, control, simulations, model simulation and hardware and processor and loop simulations that do together. And, we had come to a very mature stage of, building our overall onboard flight software for the guidance navigation control for lunar descent, which was an autonomous system that we had made.
Okay, sounds pretty interesting. So did it finally went through some commercial application as well, or at what stage did we develop it till?
So we left 2019 Team Indus. So there was unfortunately, the system did not see the light of the day due to issues beyond our control. So, but we did take it to a stage where we were testing it, and the ideal test is to fly. So, unfortunately, that couldn't happen. So that's the precise reason we started SkyServe, and ultimately we would like to.
Okay, so next, let's dive into the SkyServe story now. What motivated you and your co-founders to get into this industry? You had the prior experience, you have learned a lot in those, and but how did you go about identifying challenge or problem to solve, and then why did you make this jump finally?
So number one, we are trying to bring Earth observation to everybody. And we would want to radically bring down costs of Earth observation insights for end customers. It will open it for businesses and people who have never used it. So this is quite exciting. And one of the key reasons you come in is to see this potential realized. So all this and making it as real time as possible is something that we would want to do. And regarding the point that the problems and challenges, I would say making this whole system, defining your specific problem statement itself, as in, okay, there's great that, okay, you want to bring down costs, but defining the problem statement that what you would want to build itself is, it was an exercise that we've been involved in for a while. So at least we've, understood some part of it. And at least we are on sure footing. We've got feedback as well. So we would want to, place solutions which are, which I could, happily talk about coming few minutes.
Okay, yeah. So before that, let us know about the opportunity size of the problem that you're going after.
So as I mentioned earlier, so the analytics and the value-added services, there's an estimate which is a global $4 billion estimate, growing 30% a year. But from what we talk to many people, these are projections based on current ways of accessing and using Earth observation data for decision making. And when the cost and the latency barriers are brought down, there will definitely be new adopters who will find solutions to unanswered questions and thereby grow the industry. In fact, we are getting this feedback, every other day, in which when we ask people what your problem is, one of your problem is. So we do think that, okay, Earth observation can make good shot at solving some of the pains. And we would like to open this market not by sitting by and just do things faster and cheaper. We would want to add capabilities that are not there today.
Okay. Okay. I think that that's an important point. Once you uncover some latent need, then any market size or opportunity estimate goes out of the window, right? So uncovers a rich opportunity. Sounds good. So how is this problem currently being solved? And then what's SkyServe's solution to it?
So on the pricing part, I think it's barely being solved. And the closest is, from closest to a SkyServe solution to it is, say, a military recon satellite, which may have, technology that which is out of public's reach and can be only concentrated to certain parts of the globe looking for, say, flashpoint events. So we'd want to put intelligence on board satellites where end users can define and what they need when they need. So this is something that will involve, being on board. So this will involve making physical systems. But currently, let's say, the technology of the global constellation that images Earth once a day that I gave an example of earlier, they are built and they were first launched in 2015. So the technology that they have is to store and forward. So take images and send them down to ground. So the systems that they built was according to the design and specifications that they had made. So now things have changed. We have realized that, okay, there could be more that you could do on board. So that could potentially, be from the purely from the technology point of view, could have been only realized over the last 3-4 years, as in to be, implemented commercially. I see that this is an opportunity that we are trying to bridge.
Got it. And so that definitely makes sense how you would want to bridge that and how SkyServe can customize to the end user need while doing it at an affordable price. That definitely bodes well to the use case. Now, can you also provide some example of the insights that you have delivered or can deliver based on the technology that we'll have? And we'll get into the technology later, but I want to understand some insights that you have been delivering.
Okay, so, well, think about if you have the ability to do anything with an image. What we are trying to say is we could do it on board. So if we have, say, a smart compressed data, so let's say you've taken an image of a shore and you don't want to really look at the sea because probably it's not relevant to your use case, you could simply remove it out and not have any details there. So your removal or repurposing of irrelevant pixels is one. And you could derive image chips. So rather than a large area, if you're only interested in watching in certain places that is of interest for you, so rather than transmitting large gigabytes, say, sized images, you could only look at these area of interest and you could do these extractions and downlink these image chips. You can also give business specific insights within this area of interest. So in a port area, if you want to find out how many ships are docked, or say you want to find out how many skyscrapers or buildings are there, you want to find out if there's damage that is done or natural disaster related, or say, let's say a fire has broken out in wild and you want to identify the fire front. So these are the things that you could do on board. And in fact, generate this let's say for a fire use case. So very important use case for natural disasters to know them early and know their locations. So the major benefit is reduction of the expenses of these companies who are sourcing these insights and generation of a massive volume of insights in a very short time. Ultimately, if my question is, as an end user, what do you really need? Do you need something to act, or do you just need an image? So, or say you need something of an Earth observation product. Probably the action will be, but answer would be both, because we don't know. If you want to be sure that I want to see an image, but if you're sure that if you have the right logic of the models built, you trust these, then you probably want something as a call to action. So this is something that we could be doing as insights and benefits for the end users.
Both these points of generating large volumes of actionable insights and doing it at an cost benefit and affordable price, I think are very good value propositions that I also concur with. So I am now then quite curious to get into the technology behind this, how we enable the same. So walk us through your major technologies at play at a high level.
Okay, so our platform is called SkyServe. So it will be comprised of two components. First is SkyServe Orbit, which is essentially the space segment of our platform. It's consisting of a processor, which is a high performance edge computer that can fly on nano or micro EO satellites. And this computer can run proprietary firmware to interface with the host satellite and middleware that allows installation of third party analytics or apps, so to say, and task them to receive programmable insights. Tasking, I mean, I could collect an image and run the app on board to generate those insights. And then there's the other element, which is the SkyServe Ground, which is a suite of cloud and locally hosted application and software packages that allow users and developers to interface with Orbit to publish new apps. So program insights, monitor tasking, and access results. So you could go to SkyServe Ground and build your own model and upload it, and we'd be able to service your insights as per your schedule. So these are the two broad components.
Mm-hmm.
If I could divide the Earth and the space segment of our solution.
Okay, so it's a mix of hardware and software package that you are delivering, and I believe the orbit segment, the hardware part, is something which you are developing as payloads and then putting up into satellites along with the satellite companies.
Yes, we are doing that. That's where our previous background experience helps. So we've been in this field. So both my co-founder and I were involved in systems engineering activities, which there's interdisciplinary aspects to the solution that we could look at. So there's obviously space, astrodynamics, and there's mechanical aspects, electrical aspects, and obviously we'll have to build the flight software. So it's a payload that is a hardware system, and obviously the flight software that we're building together.
Mm-hmm. And then what kind of chips or technology in terms of the AI ML analytics components that you have put in these payloads? Can you share something on those?
So we use commercially off-the-shelf components, but one of the key things that we are also doing is that, so essentially, let's say GPU systems, edge GPU systems, but another very important part is you're flying them in space. So you obviously need to make sure that A, you have the ability to interface with, say, a host satellite, and B, you have the ability to survive the environment that you're flying in. So there's radiation, there are the temperature ranges, and magnetic inference effects. All of that you have to model and have engineering, margins built for.
Right. I think that is a completely different ballgame altogether, constructing the chipset and the system to be geared towards such an harsh environment.
Exactly. If you're, maybe some of these challenges don't apply to normal consumer grade electronics. And I mean, if you're flying such electronics at, say, high G forces or, say, at high temperatures or extreme temperature ranges or, say, near vacuum environment, this will be, that's not, you'll probably struggle. So it's not that, these are unsolvable problems. The space industry has been flying satellites and, understanding the space environment very well. But it requires know-how. It requires time and effort for sure. So, but yeah, it is a challenge.
It requires the right set of knowledge and experience, which you guys have enriched from your previous experiences.
I would say that ourselves as well as, some of the network that we have. So we work with people and, so yeah.
Okay. And apart from this, what are some other technical problems which are hardest to solve for this solution?
So if I could put the hardest problem, according to me, is generating near real-time inferencing and reasoning for a global constellation. So think about that. If you fly a lower Earth orbit and it's around, say, 1.5, 2 seconds in which you could see, while you're looking down, let's say, you see something completely new. And everything that you see, say, in a particular, say, camera frame, there's so much to break down, right? So you see, if you want to break it down into layers and layers of information, there's the land use, what kind of landscape you're looking at, what kind of, say, it could be a rural urban context, there could be objects placed in there, the relationships between these objects. So it's, there is so much that is there in a single image. So, more than 1,000 words, so to say, that you need to unpack a lot And if you want to do build these data pipelines, all of them on board in near real time, that would be a very big challenge. And not saying that it is impossible, but you will have to learn to live with some limitations, that you cannot find everything. So you'll have to find something which is most valuable from the solution point of view. So I would say this is roughly, if I could put it from a technical point of view, this would be the hardest challenge, according to me.
Got it. And I have seen few of the images of this Earth satellites, and some of them look purely stunning. So I think whoever has the job to, validate some of these models you are running must be having a really great time. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So how much data do you actually collect? And is there any privacy violation or security threat in those aspects?
So we just to step back a little. So currently we're building a prototype. So we'll probably early next year or late this year. So depending on the schedule. But we see that once we fly, let me talk about the capabilities rather than the collection itself. So I estimate that we could generate roughly 50 gigabits worth of insights a day.
Okay.
And this is consisting of, every day collecting images continuously, large amount of area. I don't see any privacy breach from the same reply that I mentioned earlier. So we'll work according to the laws of the land. So that's the capacity roughly of 50 gigabits that we have.
Yeah, and I think deep learning models would be really happy to know that, which have the hunger for good amount of data. So what are some of the, how is deep learning is used in a solution right now?
So we use several deep learning models in our data pipeline that operates on images from a multispectral sensor. Currently is the first use case. For example, cloud detection in an image is important to find out whether an area of interest is worth imaging or not. So if, say, 80% of the image is cloud and really want to take a good picture, I'm not able to see much, so probably not useful. We have estimated there more than, or say, around 1,000 useful pipelines that we could build using such models. And each pipeline is a unique ensemble of these modules and so on. And the one was from the motivation point of view, that we see that it's almost coming every industry. And I'm very excited about, identifying much more than what used to exist using these models. And so we'll probably be building some of them, and then obviously we will be getting customers to share and put their models on board. So the cloud example that I gave is, say, an example of a segmentation problem that we'll be working with.
Right. And so I think once you go about building such models, the question comes of how do you evaluate the effectiveness of accuracy of these insights that this model generate? Can you share some light of how you are going about doing the same?
So there's models and there are some pre-processing utilities that we're building. So the utilities could be, let's say, a smart compression algorithm that I talked about, clipping images, or say, these could be we could use simple statistical metrics, or say F1 scores, to judge whether they're working fine or not. And for deep learning models, we'll compare with the state-of-the-art models that are made with reference data sets with standard metrics. So you know those metrics are huge, Guardian, TICE, and so on. Some of the data sets we ourselves have had to label for QA. So the models that we built are made from data sets from various missions as well, which will make our models more robust. So various kinds of sensors, various resolutions. For inference models, some of these metrics work, but we work with partners and customers who provide ground truth data to compare and score our algorithms against. In both utilities and enterprise apps, we have ability to generate inferences on board and build a data set on ground. We use transfer learning to improve our models against the satellite that we are flying with, the sensor of the satellite that we're flying with. And we could patch the updated model onto the real mission, which we feel is very important, so that with time you essentially improve. So I see this will be a key innovation for us.
Okay. And I believe that having feedback from the end user would also be very important to improve your models in this case. And since you already own this hardware software integration, it should be very easy for you to implement. vis-a-vis some other player?
So we would like to get to that place for sure. This is very important for end users to have the ability to improve their models that they're working with. So yes, we will be obviously sharing them how their models have performed, but in order for them to improve their models, they could get the feedback from the kind of insights they've got,
right,
and build better models.
Yeah. Okay. And I tie back to what Andrew Ng, the pioneer in this AI/ML space, has been advocating for some months now, that more than model quality is the data quality, which is of prime importance. And I completely agree with that. So as long as we can improve the data and what exactly it signifies, I think the output inferences and insights would get really better. Okay. So next, let me discuss about the scalability aspects that you are thinking in your product. Can you share some light on that?
So yeah, if I could give a disclaimer here, so compared to a standard company who are handling say millions of customers, they would want to scale in that sense. Probably this our model is slightly different, since we're building a payload for a satellite first in our SkyServe orbit. So we'll obviously scale our capabilities and say capacity when we fly multiple missions. So let's say the 50 gigabit of insights that I had mentioned earlier on as an estimate. This is just for a single mission, and once you fly multiple missions, you would scale proportion. There'll be key scalability problems for ground insights distribution. So once we get these insights down ground and we have the users who could potentially use these insights, I think these problems may come in the future. So our current aim is to first demonstrate and technically validate the solution. So I would leave this particular part on the ground insight distribution and as a question to be answered in the future.
Got it. Sounds good. So that gives a good overview of what we are solving at SkyServe and how we are going about it. Let's get into the business aspects now. Tell us more about the founders and your role and your co-founders' roles.
So there's Vinay, Aditya, and I. We've had some common working experience in team vendors before we started SkyServe. So Vinay is focusing on business development. Aditya and I are looking at product and technology development.
Okay.
So generally as a founder, my role would be it's probably how it goes to most of the work. But yeah, so I'm trying to focus on getting the technology ready with all the stakeholders and say.
And how big is your team right now?
So there are 3 founders. There are 2 people who have joined us, and 3 of our mentors and friends.
Okay. And regarding end users, so who do you see as your prime end user, maybe now or maybe also in the future evolving into some other user segment?
So I would say ideal end user would be someone who would know what they want to do with this or an insight. So currently the companies who are there who would know it are these analytics companies, who kind of know what they have to do with digesting this Earth observation data. And in future, we'll be also looking at large enterprises who will benefit from our infrastructure to deploy their analytics as well, and leverage some of ours to monitor their operations, and the same, and we'll offer the same to the governments or public.
Okay. And what about traction till now? Do we have any, or we are still pre-revenue?
So currently we are pre-revenue. We are building. We are doing POCs, and now we're trying to fly our solution this December or probably early next year.
Okay.
Obviously, that means we are in some level of prototype development. So from the traction point of view, I don't think this is the time to worry too much about it. Although the POCs are meant to get towards that place. So we first want to make sure that we have the capability demonstrated from our the larger pitch. These things will go on side by side, but yeah, that's the.
Yeah. And what about the competitive landscape and how SkyServe is having an unfair advantage vis-a-vis? Can you share some light on that?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, doing things on board is a very relatively new concept. Probably people are talking only, or say actively talking about is only the last 2-3 years. So there are not many companies who are doing this, but many companies are thinking of doing this. So I won't say it's an unfair advantage, but we want to build SkyServe with a platform which is capex light. So we don't want to reinvent the wheel and build satellites for our own. And we're focused on insights as a service. So competitors are currently either developing full constellations or are having a ground-based downstream business. We have a unique advantage in integrating both with a user-first focus. And what we do will directly impact the user community. So we from our eventual goal from the cost point of view, it will be very important impact.
That sounds like a lucrative niche to go after. So what has been the most difficult time till now for SkyServe?
So from a company running point of view, it's obviously hard. Fundraising is hard if you have a new idea and you haven't demonstrated it yet. So it's important that we have the response to this work. So this is something which has been difficult.
And I would add probably not just fundraising. I think fundraising from the right set of people is more hard to get.
We've talked to many,
Yes.
a crazy amount of people
Yeah.
now. So
Right.
almost everybody. There's some kind of a challenge there that it's a chicken and egg problem. So you don't have money, you don't have technology, you don't have customers. So why don't you have customers? That's the first question. That's an issue. So
Okay.
but yeah, so I find that slowly but surely things are going the right way. We have got some recognition, and we've got some good support from folks who are now coming on board. So, but yeah, so obviously taking a lot of time. So uh, it's not an overnight thing, and it's important that you don't compare yourselves with others, because maybe they're in a different place, they're different space. Maybe they want to do something which is slightly more in the sense, more mature in the sense. So, but yeah, so this is something that I would categorize as being a technical person. You don't really always consider about this, that other things should be probably catered and solved easily, but it doesn't happen that way.
Yes. And it really needs some, along with the founders, it needs some really visionary and forward-looking investor to propel a deep tech startup like yourself. And this is something which I've seen. So not every great deep tech startup has equally visionary and forthcoming investor backing it up.
Exactly. But and the support that we've had, I think we've got some of these people. But yeah, so obviously there's some a little more, steps to cross to get outside the bridge.
Right. Okay. Now, so let's get forward looking now. And I'd like to ask you a few questions about what do you think is the immediate future target for SkyServe, maybe for the next 2-3 years?
Okay. So we would want to fly repeatedly on board at least 3 satellites each year with multispectral sensors, and want to make our service ubiquitous, as in it should be global and should be available. So that's one of the key focus that we'll be working with. So that would mean that, our technology is developed, we've flown, and so on.
Are we looking at some partnerships in those lines to have that?
So, right. So we'll be partnering with Earth observation satellite companies could fly us on board. And obviously one of the key, so if you could break this goal down, so you'll want to fly many, many times. So that means you would need to make your technology ready and mature. So that would also mean your software, your service, your overall thing is well tested. And through the missions that you fly, that will be the real rubber hits the road. So I would see that these are each a different challenge or a beast of its own. But yeah, these ultimately getting the service up and multiple satellites, that would be a great place to be.
Okay, sounds good. Do you think SkyServe is too early for this industry right now, or do you think you are just at the right point of time capturing the wave and ready to strike?
So it's possible, but from our point of view, the time to build is now, and we are working with technologies that are being leveraged by other industries. We hope that Earth observation isn't too late to the party. So, I mean, probably it's the from our point of view, it's that's all we could answer.
Yeah, I think that's a right perspective to put it. So, how are you working on gaining trust of enterprises or the regulators? I think that is will be a key factor in the not just SkyServe but any company in a deep tech industry like this.
Yeah, very very important point. So one of the key things that you have to gain from these companies is not their subscriptions but their trust. So, and particularly if you're offering something new. So we are trying to enroll companies proof of concept activities, which last a few months. We try to work and integrate the solutions, and obviously show them that okay, this can work on board as well. So these are activities which are ongoing, and some of them which have given very good positive insights on what their real pains could be, and from our end as well, it gives us very good. It's very useful and beneficial to know that okay, how if you can handle one or two customers well, probably it sets a template for future customers. It makes onboarding a little easier.
Right, well said. So now, next, I'd like to get into the final section of our discussion where we learn more about you as an individual. So you have gone after some of the like hardest industry and problem, right? In the that can be there. So where do you find inspiration for like such new ideas, or like what other problems interest you?
One of the key things that that was the inspiration for me was to have placed something in the sky, and this was one of the very important reasons, as well as I was very excited by the concepts of autonomy, AI optimization, and putting this in an industry which has not seen this before. In fact, like I have spent like multiple years, last 2 3 years, reading many papers, participating in some global competitions regarding the same. One of the key things that that keeps me motivated is because I have a little bit of a problem solving mindset. So either it would be the math of it, or say trying to build a team. It's been a very good experience in the past that has given me this thing that okay, things can be done, and yeah, that inspires me. We have set ourselves a very high challenge. Even that's quite kind of keeps you up, and like it's mostly you to see whether you can achieve it in the time frame. If not, it doesn't matter. But so that's kind of I would be my response.
Okay. There talk about founder market fit in the investment space and the startup ecosystem. I think that there is truly a founder market fit in your case with your traits, as you mentioned, fitting right for the hard problem that you are going after. So that's good to
Yeah,
hear.
soft problems are boring.
Right. Yeah, I would agree on that. So what keeps you occupied apart from SkyServe?
Currently, I'm with this with COVID-19 lockdown, so I've been at my native place in Ranchi. So at times when I'm not working, probably a long call with a friend, a chat with my grandmother, or say or a YouTube video, which is very funny, keeps me occupied. That said, I'm trying to make sure that we don't spend too much time on this on devices, gadgets, machines. So I try to be conscious about that. So I love going out, but sadly, it's not the time to. We don't have the the means and wherewithal right now, or the just the situation itself is a little sad. So I would say that currently, that's all. Stay in a home, probably talk to folks and make food. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the best thing to do given the current set of situations at hand, and I really do hope that things get back to normalcy soon with vaccine and all other precautions being taken. Uh, Lastly, I'd like to ask, what are some of the personalities that you admire in your field and why?
Yeah. So there could be some safe answers to this that, there's some popular people and so on. But generally, I feel that I'll try to reserve my admiration to people whom I might have worked with or been in, closer contact with and probably
Right.
understand. So in my previous working experience, team Indus, so we used to work with some senior ex-ISRO scientists. So even at the age retired and so on, they used to show a love for their field, which was very inspiring. I mean, I wish that I retain the same if I grow old. So I used to love that. And in no order of preference, so the people I meet, they're Natarajan sir, Hegde sir, Nair sir, Jay.
Okay. Real life importance and implications are go a long way, I think. And yes, so people who influence us in their actual lives and are really, I think, truly inspirational. We do owe them quite a few. And yeah, so sounds very good that you learned quite a lot from them and taking that inspiration forward.
Yeah, thank you, Pranjit.
Okay. So, Vishesh, it's been great talking to you, learning about this industry, which is not so common, especially in a country like India, and how you are going about this after a hard problem with a solution and a target opportunity, which is quite lucrative, and how your team is building up around these industry. And I hope that you do really go well with your plans for launch later this year, and from there on move on to greater heights in this industry and take the whole community along with you going forward.
Yeah, I think I generally believe it's best that you are successful together. And thank you for having me, Pranjit, and asking me some very probing, insightful questions. Even I had to think about them, which points which were very kind of very useful to think about every once and other times from what really motivates you and why are you really doing it. So thank you for your time, and I wish that many other people come to this industry and make it better.
Same here. Thanks, pleasure. Thanks, pleasure. Thanks, pleasure.